to the Money RX for CRNAs podcast, where you go behind the scenes with host Brett Fellows, CFP, as he explores the unique opportunities and challenges facing certified registered nurse anesthetist along the path to financial independence. In each episode, Brett shares expert insights and actionable advice, equipping you with the tools you need to take control of your financial destiny and retire on your terms. And now, here's your host, Brett Fellows.
Welcome to the Money RX for CRNA's podcast. I'm your host, Brett Fellows, and today I'm thrilled to introduce a truly inspiring guest, Kathy Faltot. Kathy is a certified registered nurse anesthetist based in South Florida with a story that's as dynamic and moving as her passion for healthcare. Kathy's journey began in Colombia, where she was raised with the resilience and gratitude that have defined her career and personal mission. And as a CRNA, she's achieved the pinnacle of autonomy and education in her field, all while maintaining a deep commitment to one-on-one patient care. But her impact goes far beyond the operating room. Kathy has made it her mission to mentor and support Spanish-speaking individuals in healthcare, breaking down barriers and empowering others to succeed. And in this episode, Kathy opens up about the challenges she's faced, from language barriers to navigating life as a bicultural professional, and how these experiences have fueled her dedication to giving back. We also dive into her perspectives on financial literacy, a topic that's close to her heart, where she shares the lessons instilled by her upbringing, her husband's role in managing their finances, and their shared strategies for building wealth. And we also delve into practical strategies for achieving financial success, covering everything from managing student loans and crafting smart investment plans to maintaining financial balance in your life. So whether you're new CRNA finding your footing in the healthcare profession, or you're planning for a secure retirement, this episode is packed with valuable insights to guide your journey. And with that, I hope you enjoy this episode of Money RX for CRNAs with Kathy Faltot. Kathy Faltot, welcome to the Money RX for CRNAs podcast.
Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
We are grateful for having you. Now, I know we had some communication early on. You're like, what would we talk about? What would you want to have me on for? And, as I was just mentioning offline, it's kind of my job to draw parallels to a lot of the things that we found interesting about you and some of the things that you talk about at Uplifting CRNA. Specifically, how you talk so much about wellness and gratitude and giving back. When, from our world, when we work with clients, it's not like they're coming to us and they're saying they are coming to us and they're asking, what should we do with our money? But if you think about that, if you and I are just meeting and you ask me that question, it's almost impossible for me to answer because I have no idea what's important to you.
Yeah.
And so we spend a ton of time on the front end, usually a good 2-3 meetings, just finding out with clients, what's important about money to you and what are your values. And from there, money's just kind of the emotional payoff for your values. And I think a lot of the things that you talk about on your social media posts and some of the things I believe you're trying to accomplish with your mentoring is frankly the exact same thing, but you're just doing it through your professional career and for your health, and it all ties together. As you know, we can't do one without the other. So that's really what interested us in reaching out to you. And so thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brett. I appreciate that.
As I mentioned in the intro, you are a CRNA at what part in South Florida?
In the Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay, great.
Yes.
How long have you been there?
So I've, after graduating CRNA school, I moved here about 2 years ago.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'd like to do, Kathy, is I found one of your posts. There's the 5 things you love about being a CRNA, and I'm actually going to try to go my questions about the 5 things that you stated you love about being a CRNA. And the
Sure.
first thing you said was making an impact on people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So even going back a little bit more, I wrote, tell me about your life growing up. I'd love to know kind of your family, your upbringing, your move to the United States, and then I can't not mention your passion for dance. So tell me about
Okay.
those.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kathy Faltot. I'm originally from Colombia, South America. I was born there, but I grew up most of my life in the US. Although I did live about 8 years of my life in Colombia, from like age 5 through age 15 or so. So, coming to the US, humble beginnings, you
Mhm.
see your parents work hard and they tell you, oh, you're here for opportunities. And so you kind of really never get that until you're a lot older. And so I always saw healthcare workers as heroes, as like people that help others feel better. So I always saw myself going into healthcare.
Mhm.
I always loved sciences and then I always love like one-to-one connections with patients. So that's what drew me into nursing.
Okay.
And also with nursing, you can do so many other things. You can go into, you can be a nurse practitioner, you can be a CRNA. I always wanted to reach the highest level of autonomy, the highest level of education, and while still being able to make an impact and having that one-to-one connection with your patients. So
Right.
that's what kind of drew me here. And now I felt like an outsider growing up because when I would go to Colombia, I was, I spoke English, and then people would say, you're not Colombian because
Mhm.
you're from the US. And then I would not, when I would come to the US, I would have a little bit of an accent in English. And so I always felt like I didn't belong here or there. But
Okay.
now it's kind of like a strength, oh, you know what? I speak both languages. So yes, it's
Yeah,
great. Yes.
that's great.
Yeah.
And so when you graduated high school, did you go right into nursing school?
No, I worked a lot. So I worked a lot in restaurants, bartending, dancing. And then I didn't go into nursing school until probably aged in my 20s. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
And obviously through nursing school, is that what introduced you to being a CRNA?
Yes, absolutely. I always wanted to be a CRNA when I think, close to graduating nursing school,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's, and you mentioned it kind of being bilingual. So, is that being a bilingual provider, an advocate, a huge part of why you do what you do? And out of all the careers, of being a CRNA?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've always been passionate about giving back. Like once you reach your goals, like I've always felt is important to give back in one way or another, whether it's going on a mission trip or helping coaching others through becoming a CRNA. Obviously, through my whole healthcare career, I have been the only person interpreting for everyone. And so I
Yeah.
saw the need of more Spanish speaking providers. And so that's
Mhm.
what's kind of what I'm focusing on now is to bring up more Spanish speaking people. A lot of people just need guidance on how to get there, how to become a CRNA. And a lot of people are not confident with their accent. And I'm just trying
Mhm.
to tell them, as long as you get the message across, practice your English, you're going to get there. We're not only good for dancing, we can also be healthcare providers. So, yeah.
That's funny. And you mentioned that kind of the impact and going into, which was the second reason why you love being a CRNA is teaching. So kind of when did you know that you liked being a mentor or you liked that idea of teaching? Did you go into CRNA school with the intention of mentoring?
Um, No, not necessarily. I just always kind of found, as you grow up through life, mentors or professors or people that take the time to teach you well and that have patience with you. So I wanted to be that person as well. Like,
Mhm.
you will not always find somebody that has the patience to teach you and to explain, things. I've encountered many preceptors that are, they just don't like to teach.
Yeah.
And it comes across when you're the person that's learning. So I don't want to be that person. I want to be the passionate, teacher. I really want you to learn and let's do it.
hmm And I know you actively kind of search out or to offer to be a mentor to others. Do you have like a favorite story that you can tell about mentoring someone?
Oh yeah, there's so many. I've had a lot of mentees. I think the most important thing that I get from it is the relationship that we build and the
Mm,
trust and just knowing that you're able to help somebody out
yeah.
there. Yeah.
And I know you talk about a lot about too how things aren't easy. Nothing in life is easy. And you didn't get into CRNA school right off the bat. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct. Yes, that is correct. And for some it's going to be easier and for some of us it's not going to be as easy. But I think for me it was the not the language barrier, but I didn't see myself represented
hmm
in the field. So, and also I was not good at math, I was not good at writing. And so it's like I had a few more challenges than the normal person that
Yeah.
grows up here. So
Yeah.
that can't stop you. So
Right.
yeah.
Um, I know you, well, so I was listening to a podcast the other day and I had heard it. I'd heard about this years ago and I forgot about it. And I literally just heard it. I think it was yesterday walking my dog in a podcast. And then when I was preparing for this, I saw it again. So you have accomplished or you did the program called 75 Hard. And I love so all of a sudden I've heard about this twice now in 2 days. I actually will not talk about like the lifestyle that you have and just how doing a program like that, how that creates balance in your overall life. Could you kind of talk about your experience of going through that?
Absolutely. So after going through CRNA school, you suddenly did something really hard that you never thought you could do. And then I looked at, you look at yourself and you say, okay, now what? What's my next challenge? You kind of need your mind to be stimulated.
Sure.
So, in my 20s, I ran marathons and I kind of went back through my teens and I always liked a challenge. So I'm like,
hmm
okay, so what's going to be my next challenge? So I decided that would be good for me to try. It teaches you a lot of, like you said, balance and, self-care, discipline, prioritizing your time, just simple things, being grateful and kind of makes you grounded,
Yeah.
and well-rounded.
Yeah.
Because we're always stressing about little things. And so this kind of gives you, it makes you better. So
Yeah.
I wanted to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. I don't know if I could make it. I think I could do it. But when they say if you stop and you have to start over at day one again, I think I'd say, all right, I'm out. I'm out. Um, so that kind of goes to like your third reason for why you love being a CRNA is the flexible schedule.
Mhm.
Uh, how have you, what does a typical week look like? How do you balance today everything that you've learned from, to keep your energy up for your health, to keep your energy up for your work, and then to be able to rejuvenate? What does a typical week look like for you?
So for me, I work some days I work two 14-hour shifts and one 12. And so that leaves me with 4 days off, which I
Yeah.
love. And some weeks I work two 8-hour shifts and two 12-hour shifts, which I still
Yes.
get 3 days off. Um, that works for me, but in the CRNA world, there are many schedules. You can pick, 10-hour shifts or 5/8 or 224s or
Hmm.
whatever works for you. So I love that flexibility. Whether you have kids or, um, I believe that having balance is important, and I get to do a lot of things with my free time,
Yeah.
such as, house chores and, giving back and getting on the Zoom call and, just focusing on things that you're passionate about.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. Now you mentioned part of the reason why you wanted to become a CRNA was the top level and literally the top level kind of an earnings potential. So that job security that it offers you, and this kind of goes into the money conversation. I guess you're talking about your upbringing. Um, you were mentioning how you kind of felt left out, maybe on different ends because of whether in Colombia or the United States about how you speak, but how, tell me about what was your life like in terms of how you thought about money? Did you always, tell me, I guess, in your words, what was it like growing up in money? What was the money speak like in your household growing up?
Yes, absolutely. So I come from very humble beginnings. So, um, my mother has always kind of been you need to have good credit. You need to, get this credit card and pay it off immediately. She always kind of taught me that and helped
Sure.
me build my credit and coached me through building my credit,
Yep.
which as an adult, I realized that yeah, you need to know
Yeah.
that. Um, but I'm not an expert in financial
Mhm.
subjects. However, my husband is a little bit more, so that
Uh-huh.
helps too. So he manages a lot of that, and I'm grateful for that.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you have to have a partner and support
Yeah.
each other, and you both have different strengths, and you can complement each other with that. But honestly, it's not in the Latin culture or the people that come here into the US. They're not, from Latino background, they
Hmm.
don't come knowing the importance of credit and your
Hmm.
finances and all that stuff. And which is also something that I want to teach them in the future.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And when you think about the topic of money, and just understand what's a word or two that comes to mind when I say money or financial planning, what comes to your mind when you hear those words?
Well, I think it's a money is just money, but you have to know how to manage it
Mhm.
in order for you to live a balanced life. You have to know how to invest it and how to learn what is a good investment and what is a bad investment.
Mhm.
For example, I had not bought a car in like 8 or 10 years because I know cars are bad
Mhm.
investments because as soon as you buy it, the value is going to drop.
Yep. Yep.
Whereas I'd rather spend my money on buying a house where, actually we have a couple of rental properties
Oh, very
now
good. Yeah.
that we do. Now my husband manages all that.
Yeah.
So we know that, like what to invest in, what not, but
Mhm. Yep.
that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, well, and this leads to the question you had sent in advance about, which is a very common thing for many CRNAs. What am I supposed to do if I've been in CRNA school for and I've got debt, student loan debt, and yet I haven't had any income. Now I've graduated and I've got this high income. What do I do next? Uh, I think the good news is, and where I can like to compliment you, is if you got through CRNA school, you are very bright. And I will tell you that doing well with money has very little to do with what you know and
Mhm.
everything to do with how you behave. And so the things that you have accomplished, getting through CRNA school, doing things like 75 hard, just I can even tell just by the way you speak and the way you do your posts, you are very intelligent. So therefore, I'm trying to tell you,
Yeah.
don't be hard on yourself where you say, I don't know much about money. Thank goodness my husband does. Because frankly, it's more about how you behave than
Right.
anything else. So let's kind of go to your question. So the good thing is you were talking about what's good investment or bad investment. Well, a student loan is what
Mm-hmm.
we would consider good debt. So
Mm-hmm.
something that appreciates.
Mm-hmm.
A home you were talking about, that is when you borrow money to purchase a home. I would say to you, Kathy, that is also good debt because, again, in theory,
Mm-hmm.
the home would appreciate.
Yeah.
So anytime you borrow to have something appreciate, so a business, a home, education is considered good debt. So that's on your side. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Where the trick is now, because okay, well, now I have a good income. What do? I do have this debt, and I want my, in theory, net worth to increase because debt is simply a detractor of net worth. um,
Mm-hmm.
so, and this is again going to be something that you don't already realize or don't already know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too sexy, but the very first thing I would say is to pay yourself first.
Right.
And so, just like anything else, when you get paid,
Mm-hmm.
in if you could do this, I would literally have 20% of what my net paycheck go to a separate bank account. I would literally open up a separate bank account and I might label it student loan. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that is step one. Now, ideally, we want to get about 20% of what you make to be going to that type of thing. Now, take that with a grain of salt. That's the ideal. If you maybe you start at 5, maybe you go to
Mm-hmm.
10, and that so everybody's different. So whatever you can to do. But once you get to that 20% number, mathematically, that's the kind of the perfect place you'd ever have to go. Wouldn't ever have to go any higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
But before you even start paying, let's say, down your student loan, you definitely would want to have an emergency fund. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't discount that. Now you mentioned you're married. So if you both, you and your spouse, are working, and again, I'm sure you already know this, but if you had like 3 months worth of living expenses,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that might be, let's just say it's 15,000. That's put
Mm-hmm.
aside in a different savings account
Mm-hmm.
that we don't touch. Now, if I'm not there, or if I spend $2,000 on tires, I don't go anywhere. I don't put money anywhere else till I fill that bucket back up.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Um, Now, once I've done that, now I can go back to that again. If I'm trying to put 20% aside, there is some nuance to this. If your employer offers you a retirement plan and there's a match, you definitely want to take advantage of that just to get started, just to get the match. So if you put in 3%, they'll match
Mm-hmm.
you 3%, just as an
Yeah.
example. You definitely want to do that because that's 100% return, and I can't beat that anywhere.
Yeah.
Once you've passed that, then everything should go to your student debt. Now, when I say everything, um, and again, you probably have heard this, but a debt snowball. So if you have multiple loans, you would want to take the smallest balance one first and try to put as much money toward, make the minimum payments on the others and put as much money towards that one as possible. Um, if you do have federal loans, which might have lower interest rates, if you can consolidate those, we would try to look to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly is to get the small ones done first. So if you're putting
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month to a small one, as soon as that's gone, you add that $200 to another loan and just
Mm-hmm.
go and just, you see the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, again, now student loan is good debt. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do everything just to get rid of your debt. Now, again, it is fact dependent and depends on the person. Um, if it was car debt or something like that, or credit card debt, I would say, Kathy, yes, we want to get rid of this too. It's a zero balance. But for student loans, I would be okay, however, amortizing that over a 20-year period or something like that. And you don't need to do more because, again, interest rates are lower. We don't even know. It might be forgiven. We've seen that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So again, unless it's very important to you to be debt free,
Mm-hmm.
it would give yourself some grace and don't worry about paying it off all at once or as fast as you can, because again, you took that time to invest in yourself. So you're just paying yourself back gradually over time.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, just rush to pay off their school loans, and sometimes I wasn't sure if that's like what you're supposed to do, so you can, I don't know. So,
Yeah, if debt keeps you awake at night, that's a great great strategy. But if debt doesn't keep you up at night, I would be okay with it. It's just like having a mortgage. You're not paying everything towards your mortgage in the house, right? You're amortizing that over 30 years. I would treat it the same way.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah.
Only because it's good debt.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, makes sense. I started reading this book
Nice.
last week.
Good for you.
First financial
Love it.
book I've ever read.
And again, what you'll find in that, there might be technical types of things, and even the things I said, it really wasn't very technical. It was all stuff you kind of already inherently know. Back to what 75 Hard taught you. I know I might as well get this workout done in the morning because I probably won't do it later. Well, that's just the same philosophy as paying yourself first, because you know you won't pay yourself later. So it's really simple. We just make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
And then the last thing, or the fifth reason you had mentioned, so I'm kind of fascinated about this, is why you love being a CRNA is how the art of anesthesia fascinates you. Could you talk about that?
Yes. So there are many ways to do anesthesia, which it kind of makes it hard to learn. Everybody has their own way. You can do general anesthesia on procedures that are a little more invasive, and then you can do, MAC anesthesia, which is just sedation on procedures that are not so invasive, like a colonoscopy or things like that. The variety of drugs that are out there, you have to know all the pharmacology and how each one of them works. And it's kind of like, you're always titrating, you're always thinking, you're always giving your drugs according to the body's physiology and what the body is doing when you're under general anesthesia. So to me, it's kind of like an art to be able to, bring your heart up faster or lower, your blood pressure up, to keep you safe. So that's what I love about it. And also, you can do epidurals and spinals, and you can do babies, you can do pediatrics, you can do adults, you can do trauma, there's so many things you can do. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. As we kind of get to the end, I'd love to know, Kathy, so if we were to look at the future, what are some of the things you're excited about professionally that you'd like to do? Or I guess another way to say that is, if it's 3 years from today and you and I, it's December 12th, 2027, and we're looking back over the last 3 years, what has to have happened for you to feel happy with your progress as a CRNA?
Well, right now, I'm happy right now, which is important. You have to learn to be happy, no matter what. As far as professionally, just continue learning skills and teach others. Perhaps opening a business. I've always wanted to do that. But right now, I'm just trying to focus on my anesthesia skills and, be a little more good, better with that. Continue mentoring, perhaps do a couple mission trips. Yeah, I mean, I travel a lot already, so I'm grateful for that. I love traveling all over the world, which I'll probably post some travels next year. But yeah. Just continue enjoying life and everything you work hard for.
That's great. Well, you deserve it. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Kathy, for being on this episode of the Money RX for CRNA's podcast. And everybody in the show, we will have links to Kathy's Instagram page and all of her social media in the show notes. But we look forward to perhaps having you again someday in the future. It'll be fun to watch your journey.
Sounds good, Brick. Thank you so much for having me. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. This podcast does not engage in rendering legal, financial, or other professional services.